welcome back to my channel. Today I'll be sharing with you some art materials that I got during this lockdown and also teach you how we're gonna paint some sunflowers. So these two things today. Alright, so without further ado, let me switch my camera to my table so that you can see the art materials that I'm talking about, and I'm gonna teach you how we're going to paint sunflowers using watercolor. Let's get started. Alright, so the first item that I want to share with you is the Shop Tokyo Finds Watercolor Journal. This journal has 300 GSM watercolor papers, and I actually was given a smaller journal before. I think it was in December, and I quite liked it. I really liked it. So I finished all the pages. During the lockdown, I was able to paint a lot of florals here, as you can see in my IG. So I went ahead and bought a bigger size, this one which we will use today to paint our sunflower. The next item that I'm going to show you is pretty common if you're into scrapbooking and journaling. These are actually washi tapes. So I don't have any washi tapes, so I bought myself a few. These are bought by set, so I bought around like 4 sets because from what I can see, it's actually pretty easy to use up the washi tapes, and they're really super pretty. So I got them in Shopee, in a shop in Shopee. So I also bought this plastic organizer that comes with it so that they are all in one place. So I mainly use the washi tape to make the border. I used to use masking tapes for it, but I find that masking tapes are quite tricky. Sometimes the adhesive is too strong, so it actually tears the watercolor paper. So now I have selected the washi tape for my painting. And the last two items that I want to share with you that I got in this lockdown are these Watercolor brushes. I got them from Art Nebula, which is nearby my place, so I didn't have to pay for shipping. Yay! This first one is a squirrel mop brush. I like them. It soaks up a lot of water. While the other one is a precision imitation sable brush, which I use more for detailing. So these two are a nice addition in my watercolor brush collection. So now we get started on the sunflower watercolor tutorial. So I have a reference of the sunflower that I want to paint today. I'm using the washi tape to line the border of my journal so that I won't go over, and we have a nice clean square or rectangle when we finish. So I'm going to get ready to sketch my sunflower. I'm using my Pilot Color Eno in red. I know a lot of people ask me about this. You can get them in SM Stationery, National Bookstore, and there are a lot of colors, not only red, but red is actually my favorite among all the Pilot Color Eno mechanical pencil. So here I am sketching the sunflower. I started with the center, so that's a round shape, and I'm just putting on all the petals. I'm not going to really follow the background of the reference. I'm just adding a bit of leaves there, a little bit of smaller sunflower peeking out. It's just very rough sketch. I don't want it to be too perfect, too much copying of our reference. So now we're gonna get started with the base color. I'm using a combination of yellow ochre and a little bit of, I think, aureolin of Holbein, so a brighter yellow shade. So I'm using the mop brush from Raphael, so you can see that it soaks up quite a lot of water. Very nice to use when you are doing wet on wet painting, or you just want to cover a lot of areas with paint quickly. So we now have to wait for this wash of yellow and the center of the flower to dry. That's why I'm moving first to another area to paint, and those are the leaves. I'm using Sap Green here by Sinilier. I'm just quickly covering all the leaves in my drawing with that same shade. Now that the main sunflower is a bit more dry, I'm adding a second layer of burnt umber to the middle, and I'm gonna add Payne's Gray at the very center. So that would highlight that the sunflower is darker in the middle. And here I am adding yellow ochre to each of the petals. So you have to do this per petal. That way you can make sure that each petal will stand out. We don't want our flower to look like they have only one petal that is like stuck together. So we are going to do this one by one. That way each petal can be painted on individually and they all look like several petals of a sunflower. So the technique here, once you put your paint there, you have to diffuse it or make sure that you soften the edges of the paint that you added. So I'm adding again another layer of burnt umber in the center because I feel that it lacks more definition there. Adding Payne's Gray on top of the sap green color on the leaves. So the reason why I move back from the flower to the leaf is I'm waiting for it to dry. So that's a technique in watercolor that you really have to be patient, because if you're not patient, most likely you will move the colors that you've already put on there, and we don't want that. So the fun part here is moving to detailing each of the petal. So I'm now using the other round brush of Raphael, the imitation sable. This is actually very nice to use when you're just wanting to do some outlines, some further details. And here I'm more focused on making sure that you can see each petal individually. So it's more like lining each of the petals that I've done a while ago. I'm using a combination of burnt umber and Payne's Gray, depending on which area would need it the most. So here you can see that the sunflower is actually coming to life now. It really pays off to layer very patiently when you're doing your watercolor. Adding a bit more shadows underneath each petal. Now I'm onto the background. I've decided on the color of this beautiful blue like the sky. So I think this will enhance the yellow of our sunflower. So I'm back to using my mop brush because I need to quickly fill in all the background with the paint. So this one is the perfect brush to use that. So what this sunflower needs is just a little bit more of the highlights. So I'm adding a bit of orange on some of the petals here to make them more vibrant. So that's a technique I usually share to my students, adding a little bit of orange or yellow to your work. I'm also adding white acrylic gouache for the middle of my sunflower. This is just to add a bit more of, a little more attraction to it. So adding little bits of dots there. Lastly, we are removing the washi tapes. It is so satisfying to peel off the tapes and see those very clean lines. And that's it. Thank you for watching this video, and I hope you learned something in how to paint a sunflower. I'm using again the Shop Toki Finds Watercolor Journals with my Raphael brushes. But if you don't have these items, it's completely fine. Make sure you use a good watercolor paper and your brushes, and your preferred brushes. So thank you again for watching, and hope you subscribe to my channel, and I'll see you again in another video.